these are the sort of things where if I'm Arsenal, I'm going to be kicking myself if I don't win this league because I didn't invest in the January transfer window. So I think, Mudryk, I would say if he was at the Arsenal team right now, he would have scored by now. Is that fair to say with the
Yeah,
amount of chances that are
definitely,
being
Yeah.
created?
for
Yeah.
sure.
So these are the sort of things that hopefully don't come back to rue for Arsenal. If City get to the final of the Champions League, it is the one that they want to win. It is the sort of thing that will complete the trophy cabinet. So they'll happily take second and the winning the Champions League, I think. Because it could come down that Arsenal unravel in those last three games and City pip them to the title. Very, very possible. It's happened before with the top four and Spurs finishing above Arsenal in that game. So yeah, I think it comes down to mentality and it comes down to finishing. And I think any injuries and Arsenal are in a right mix. So yeah, I still think you know City could do the damage, just depending on when they exit the Champions League.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
I was gonna say on the squad depth thing, City definitely win it on that hands down, don't they? Because you're playing a different defense every week, can't you, Ricky? You literally
mm,
put in, three out. You then
Yeah,
swap Grealish for if Mahrez is on. You then swap around Alvarez, and it's literally it's like he's got three or four different ways to win a game with those players. Whereas I feel like Arsenal only have one way to do this, and that could be their Achilles heel, where teams do suss out how to stop Arsenal, and they don't have the options off the bench to turn it around, like the striker we've been talking about, or the false nine. Nketiah, is that the Nketiah whole hype has gone now. Um, who else do you bring off the bench whilst Jesus is still injured or recovering, and he's going to take his time getting back in because you don't want to rush back from an injury like that. So I just wonder if Arsenal's weakness is the fact that this is their team and this is their formation and they don't have anything else apart from this.
yeah, I think that's a valid point. I think there isn't. I think squad depth is pretty much non-existent in the Arsenal camp. I mean, Jesus is out, so they bought in Nketiah. Nketiah's got benched for Trossard the other day. That's it. That's as far back as it goes. But I look at Arsenal, and I think that's a valid point that you guys are talking about here. Is that how much of Arsenal being in the title race is City letting them, if you know what I mean, right? City are seasoned winners. They've won this competition many, many times, 4 times in the last 5 seasons. They know how to clean up. I just wonder if one of their eyes is on that Champions League, and I think to your point is if they exit that, they're going to go full force into the league, right? Because that's what they want to win. But I think they're so focused on that on the Champions League, and I just wonder if Man City were on it, would Arsenal be where they are right now? And I think also that this game in hand that they've got, which they play on Wednesday, which you've got up on screen, I think they've got to get that game done because at the moment it's always about, Arsenal got a game in hand. Arsenal got a game in hand. When they go level and they're on level games, then, it's just pure points in it. There's no game in hand for anyone. And I think the mentality of the City players will start to come through because they've been there and done that. And I just wonder is when they start to get a point or two in between that Arsenal may start to have a wobble because we are still in February. We are still in February and we're not in a traditional February at the moment. We are because of the World Cup a few weeks behind
Mm,
that.
I mean, there's a
good
very
point.
simple way to play against Arsenal, right? Which is you just drop 20 yards behind where you normally would hold your high line, and you basically take Saka and Martinelli out of the game because you don't let them run in behind you, and then Nketiah is just man marked out of the game, and that's it. And if I can tell you that there are Premier League managers who've worked that out, and then they know that the only way you're going to get beaten is by a worldie from Odegaard or Xhaka, and you would take those odds because not everyone wants to play fast flowing, free flowing football against Arsenal and give them the opportunity to play. This is not FIFA. So
Yeah,
I think this is where it's going to come a cropper for Arsenal, and they could quite easily draw the game against Everton, pile the pressure on themselves, City go on a run and they could find themselves needing to win on the last day of the season to win the title and not do it. And psychologically, that would destroy them.
Yeah, I mean, the next 4 games, Arsenal got easier. They've got Everton, Bournemouth, Fulham, and Crystal Palace, whereas we've got Newcastle and Liverpool. And I know we shouldn't look at the last day of the season, but we've got Brentford away. They've got Wolves at home. So I know it's like a sandwich. Like the big games are coming up in like near the endish kind of middle-ish kind of bit, but the next 4 games are quite crucial because I'd rather take the points and play the easy teams. And I'm just writing off these teams, by the way. I don't mean to be, but what I'm trying to say is that on paper, when you're looking at Everton, Bournemouth, Fulham, and Crystal Palace, Arsenal's next 4 fixtures versus Man City's Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Liverpool, and Southampton. You know, I'll take Arsenal's fixtures any day rather than the City ones.
But would you? But
why?
I
want. Yeah, I would want the points up on right now. I just want to grab the 3 points now rather than face the big teams like in Newcastle and Liverpool, you know, coming up.
I think Newcastle are crestfallen. I think it's a really good time to play them.
Yeah,
and you know, and that's the thing. They'll want to kick on in the league, but I don't think that they've got another gear to go into, unfortunately. And I think you can start seeing Newcastle now slipping down the table. And you know, you're probably going to take advantage of that, to be honest. I think you know, Crystal Palace hit and miss. You know, who's going to score for them if Zaha's not there? So it really depends.
These fixtures here, these 6 fixtures, guys, you've got 3 games. 3 days. There's a game every 3 days. So I think Arsenal obviously have not been in the Europa League because they went through to this. You know, they skipped this round. They came out the League Cup, and I think they're at the FA Cup, if I'm not mistaken, guys. I think they're at the FA Cup. Yeah, they threw it at Man City. To Man City. Yeah. So Arteta's obviously, you know, focusing on the Premier League, which I don't blame him at all. It's been too long. It's been 20 plus years. But this Europa League fixture here, Sporting Arsenal, I just wonder if he will put that first 11 out there that's going to play Fulham away on Sunday and come back on a Thursday night, you know, which is always awkward because you've got Friday one session and then you're traveling the next day, or it's not a lot of traveling, it's London anyways, but that day doesn't count as training. So I just wonder if this Sporting away trip, that will tell us a lot about whether he believes his squad is deep enough to stay in the Premier League title race whilst playing in Europe, whilst playing every 3 days. And if he throws this tie, I think it could go down as one of the best decisions, where it will do if they win it, because people are talking about him throwing the FA Cup and they're still in this race and they're still ahead and they've still got the game in hand. If he throws the Europa League, there'll be fans that say, what are you doing? You know, like that's another way to win a trophy, a decent trophy as well. But I think most fans would understand him putting out the kids, because if you get any injuries to those centre backs, if Saliba goes out or Gabriel goes out, I don't know who comes in. Rob Holding, you know, does Ben White come back in? I mean, now you're talking like a championship team. You lose the likes of Zinchenko to a dodgy tackle in Portugal, and then you're back to the Tomiyasu. You got Tierney, obviously, who's been hit and miss. So I just wonder now if Arteta's going to look at these fixture lists, and I'm sure he looks at them every day. And then him and his team sit down and they look at it and say, right, win, don't give a crap. We'll take a draw there, you know, win there, and doing all the mathematics to keep that 5-point buffer until they play Man City. Because if they keep that buffer until they play Man City, and if they do the unthinkable, which is beat you guys on home turf, then I think we're looking at it going, okay, these guys, you know, it's a real deal over here. Then they've got to go Anfield, which is a difficult place. They never win there. And they've got to go away to Newcastle, which you guys just mentioned, which at the moment, you never know. This loss might galvanize them. Just the whole crowd thing being at Wembley, the whole day out. Yes, you didn't win it, but it might galvanize. It might make them hungrier. They might want to give something back to the fans, because they are on the edge of literally just going, you know, just smashing it out there in terms of what they can achieve over the next 5 years. So I wonder if this was like Newcastle of old and they'd got to the final, it could be a real deflating thing, because you're like, shit, when are we going to get this opportunity again? But Newcastle know they've got the backing now to get into these finals over the next 5-6 years. So I reckon this will galvanize them. I think this will potentially give them the boost and a little bit of taste of success that they missed out on. And you look at clubs that get to finals, and Liverpool's a classic example in the Champions League. They got a taste against Madrid, and then they went back and won it because they wanted to really get their hands on it. So I'm not sure Newcastle is a total write-off just yet, but who knows? Time will tell. On Arsenal, then, any other points, lads? You want to discuss?
I just think with Arsenal, I mean, they're focusing all on the Premier League, and rightly so. They haven't won it for 20 years, and they want to definitely go and win that. But they have spent a load of money. Arteta's been there for a number of years now. He's been building this squad.
400 million.
Why shouldn't they be? Yeah, exactly. Last time we looked, I think they were like, okay, Chelsea are always going to be at top of that graph at the moment, but they sit in like third something in terms of spend over the last 4 or 5 years. He's had enough time with this squad. Why have they only got a squad that's we're talking about being not deep enough? Why are they not going for the Premier League? Why are they not going for the Europa League at the same time? Fine, the domestic cups, you could probably say, okay, we're out of them. We won't focus on them. But a team like Arsenal should be, shouldn't they? I mean, I can understand a Newcastle. They haven't been in this position for years, and suddenly they're kind of like, oh, wow, look, we've got to go for the Premier League. That's the one we want. Arsenal, in my opinion, should be going for both competitions.
Yeah,
just my opinion.
I think, Josh, the only thing I would say to what you said about the Europa League is this: winning breeds the confidence. So to put a team out that might potentially lose to Sporting, then to go and lose your next game, or to lose against Everton, I think that would not be a crisis at Arsenal, but the crisis of confidence starts to kick in, because Fergie used to say, like, winning basically attracts more winning, right? Like, you don't put out a team to lose, and you certainly don't try and game manage something which essentially causes you to lose. So I think if he's smart, what he will do is what Ten Hag's doing right now, which is rotate his best players at 60 minutes after they're already on their way to a result. And that way you can still get a bit of a rest for, the Zinchenko's and the Martinellis of this world. But if he tries to put out a team which gets absolutely hammered, and then he goes and loses, I agree with Vijay. I think he is probably one of the luckiest managers to have gone under the radar with the third highest spend in the Premier League and not achieved anything. And that's a reality. So he's got to get that fixed.
He spent money. He spent it well. You'd argue Ben White. Most people had said, "Is Ben White worth the 50 mil?" I just put up these numbers for you guys again so you can see. But Ben White was an expensive one. The other one was Ramsdale. People were saying, "Is Ramsdale worth what Arsenal paid for him?" Which I think was 50
30
million.
odd.
Was it 30? Okay, sorry, yeah. So it's 30 odd mil. But I think he was from Sheffield United or wherever he was from. It's from the Championship.
But Sheffield United were laughing, right, at that point, because he came from a Championship, with the highest record of any goalkeeper from coming out of the Championship. And this is the thing. I think Arsenal have bought okay, but then they've bought some right duds as well, right? Lokonga, he's off at Crystal Palace.
Suarez.
So they don't always get it right.
I don't think many clubs get it right anyways, always. I don't think many do anyways. I think the success rate is 70-80% for a good, when you look back every 4 or 5 years and you think, right, all the money we spent, we got 7 out of 10 right. We'll take that. That's not a problem. We have a margin of 3. But I think back to the point of, do you play your best team in the Europa League and then pull them off, like basically stay in the tie, bring them back to the Emirates and then do a job on them? I agree with that. That does make sense. But playing every 3 days, the team's young enough. It's not like they're a 28-year-old team, and they've got some old boys at the back or whatever. So they've got the legs for it. But my worry, well, it's not a worry, mate. I'm a Spurs fan. I don't worry for Arsenal at all. But
I was about to say, what happened to you?
No. I know. You know what I mean? Probably hanging around with too many Arsenal fans. But when I speak to them, I sense fear in them where they won't say it. And they'll say game at a time, and they'll say, yeah, we still got 35 points or whatever it is. But inside, they're thinking to themselves, we're not going to get this opportunity. We're unlikely to get this opportunity once Chelsea, Liverpool, and United keep doing what they're doing. And Newcastle somehow enter that race. So I think they're looking at it almost like, it's the perfect storm. That the big boys, some of them are sleeping right now. The sleeping giants in Chelsea and Liverpool. Man City are still trying to work out what their first 11 is and how they go about, managing the biggest gap in Pep's career at Man City compared to still winning this competition that they do pretty much every year. So I think they see these gaps, and I think Arteta must in his solo, when he's on his own and he's thinking, reflecting on the weekend and reflecting on the fixtures. I don't think Arsenal will have this opportunity next season or the season after, because it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. Liverpool will sort that midfield out. Man United will bulk up, if not more, and Chelsea will keep going. And I haven't even mentioned Spurs. God knows what we'll do in the window, but we might do something decent. Who knows? So if I'm Arteta, I'm looking at this saying, screw the Europa League. With respect to the Europa League, screw the Europa League, because winning the Europa League and missing out on the Premier League doesn't make sense. So why stay in it? Do you know what I mean? You stay in something to win it at this stage. But I also understand what you're saying from a winning breeds winning perspective. But if I'm going out and playing kids, and I'm literally saying to my squad, listen, we're not interested in this. I'm going to play the kids, and this is your chance to show me what you can do. Like the League Cup almost, when a lot of the big teams play in the League Cup, their kids, Man City have done it over the years. I wonder if Arteta now says, right, some of these fringe players that I don't really know what you can do, I'm happy to come out of the competition, but to see you over 90 minutes home and away against a decent team in Sporting, I will play you to show me what you can do, to give you a chance to get into that first 11. So use it as a positive, regardless of losing and coming out that competition. Or he goes for it, and if they don't win the title race, which I don't think is going to be completed until the last couple of weeks of the season, he then looks at the Europa League and says, right, let's just go and win that now, because then we've given the fans something at the end of the season to cheer about, because otherwise everyone will call it a flop. And everyone will say,
I don't think they're winning the Europa League.
With Man United.
Exactly. So I'm kind of putting my hat in there and saying, United have got a better chance of winning.
I don't know, man. I think I think Arsenal would give United a good game any day of the week.
I'm not doubting that, but I genuinely think right now, if it was played, we would give them a good game as well, and we could potentially win it.
Oh, it'd be a brilliant game. Both legs as well, weren't they? Home and away.
Yeah. So I would say Arteta is, if he loses the Europa League and he then goes on to lose the league, do Arsenal get rid of him?
No, never.
No.
No
You
chance,
see,
man.
so this is the point of Arsenal, that you can't have that sort of level of failure and level of investment. You wouldn't do it in a job, and you shouldn't be able to do it in his. I think that's where I come a cropper from that.
Yeah, agreed. And the fact that I know what you say, Josh, about Chelsea, Liverpool, some of these teams are sleeping giants. Indeed, they are. And Arsenal is fully awake, right? But they should be one of those teams, right? We should be talking about them coming again next year, even if they finish second this year, coming again next year, challenging the City, Chelsea's, the Uniteds, the Liverpools. But we're not. We're kind of thinking this is their one shot and then they're done, right?
Giving them a bit of special treatment because it's Arteta and it's a project and he's young and he's never managed. I know what you mean. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. I just think what he's shown in a short space of time, which is getting rid of some dead, egos, whatever you want to call it, getting rid of the bad apples, refreshing that squad, and then going on this run and showing everyone that it's not, it wasn't till Christmas. I think Arteta's shown enough in these last 6 months to basically have this job for the next couple of years at least, even if he does not win the title, does not win the Europa League, because getting a manager to play football that's attractive, bring in youngsters, and produce results is very difficult in this state. You can go and get a great CV, but you might not bring in the youngsters. You can go and get in a young manager who brings in youngsters, but doesn't bring results, and that could be Potter, for example. Bringing in young players. Arteta does all of it, and he's probably, from an all-round point of view, in terms of points to pounds spent. If there was a calculation of points to pound, he's definitely towards the top end in terms of the return on points on the money he's spent. But over the last 5 years, 400 million is not a joke. 400 million is not a joke, and he has been given the money to spend. And a lot of people do say Arteta's this, he's amazing, and yeah, he has been amazing. But to your point, gents, you are right. He has been given money to do his job. It's not like he's done it on a budget. He's done it with good 50 million here, 40 million, 30 million there. But we all know that 50, 30 million these days could be a complete waste of money as well. So we have to give credit to recruitment at Arsenal, because not only have they spent 400 million, but they've bought in players on 100 grand a week, 80 grand a week, 40 grand a week in Saliba, Martinelli, Saka from the academy. They've done it in such a way that I think they've almost shown a different way of doing it, rather than just buying superstars and constantly bringing in those 200 grand a week, 250 grand a week. Because they bought in Jesus and he's their top earner, and they bought in Zinchenko, and then they've really, I think they've done great. I think they've done great, chaps. But you are right. He has spent a lot of money, and Arsenal should be challenging for the title every year. And sometimes people give Arsenal this special TLC because of Arteta, and maybe people need to start being a little bit more demanding from Arsenal, because they are a big club. They are a big club. Cool. Any other points, guys? I mean, I've got the fixtures up. I don't know where they'll drop points, but maybe Fulham away is a banana skin, and I think the Liverpool game away, Crystal Palace. Nah,
I think it's your relegation. I think it's the relegation one. It's been mentioned here before. It's
Everton.
those ones that will be at the bottom of the table, fighting for their lives, that will pull a result out the bag that's unexpected, like a Southampton versus Chelsea. Although, to be fair, that's expected these days. But you know, there's one of these teams where, I think it will be one of those relegation battling sides. We'll pull a result out.
See what happens, mate. We'll see what happens. They at the moment are proving everyone right or wrong, whichever fence and side you sit on.
I think just being a City fan though, like we're chasing Liverpool and this season chasing Arsenal, I would still rather chase Arsenal rather than to be chasing a Liverpool. And that may sound very controversial.
Yeah.
But the fact that we've done this before, Liverpool have done this before, but Arsenal, they obviously did it like 20 years ago or so. But this is still very new to them. They've got a new manager, young players. As a City fan, I'd prefer being in this position than when we're chasing the Uniteds or Liverpools in the past. And this is all recorded, so at the end of the season, if we don't lose, I'll probably have egg on my face. But I feel at the moment, like I feel a bit comfortable still. I still feel a bit more comfortable chasing Arsenal.
It changes week by week, Rick. So whatever you say this week, you know, is going to change next. It's like the weather; you can't predict this kind of stuff. But to that point,
which says a lot, right, Josh? What Ricky just said says so much about Arsenal.
Exactly.
Right, that he's not actually fearing them as much as a team that was sitting 9th in the league last week. Right.
But I think he means in the context of having won.
The title chase. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he's right, because I don't see Arsenal having this sort of finish as they have had to start. I can't see them finishing without losing points.
Yeah, I think, look, there's the other argument to that debate is they're fearless. They know nothing. They have no scars. They have no pain, no trauma. You know, they are going out there like a bunch of mates. And every team has to win it once at some point. United have shown that with youngsters. So I think there's two schools of thought on it. Yeah. There's definitely the argument of haven't been there, done it. Give us 3 weeks. We'll see you in April and see how things are then. And then the other school of thought is, what do they fear? There is nothing to fear. They've not failed. They've not failed before. They bottled, you could say, the last 3 games of last season against Tottenham, and we got into the Champions League place. But they're showing no signs of it. But we'll see what happens, because as the pressure cranks up, that's when we see real cracks. Unless
they don't have that.
It's not there yet, the pressure yet. It's like a 6 out of 7 out of 10, if that.
Yeah, they don't have that seduction in the Champions League, whereas we're like getting seduced into that game of Champions League and taking our eye off. So that's going to be a key factor as well. But yeah, really interesting season, I think, to kind of go into. It's the fast finish now, isn't it?
Yeah.